When one speaks of Sodom and Gomorrah, immediately the cities marked by sin that God decided to destroy with all his wrath come to mind. However, there is much more to this story than meets the eye at first glance. If you are intrigued by this subject, continue with us. Because here on the Divine Era channel, you are always welcome. This narrative has a strong religious connotation found in the Bible and is often used to highlight the great sins that led to the condemnation of these cities. Therefore, it is important to emphasize that our goal is only to tell the story of the ancient cities of Sodom and Gomorrah and their inhabitants, as described in the book of Genesis of the Old Testament. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were annihilated by the divine wrath due to their complete depravity and wickedness. According to Scripture, God decided to punish these cities by reducing them to ashes and sulfur in an act of divine justice. It all began when two travelers, who later turned out to be angels sent to execute the destruction of the cities, arrived at the gates of Sodom. There they met Lot, a righteous man who welcomed them into his home. Lot lived with his wife and two daughters. Despite living in a city known for its immorality, Lot's family was known for its hospitality and kindness. Although the story of Sodom and Gomorrah has become famous mainly for its sexual and moral aspect, according to the Bible, the greatest sin of the Sodomites that most displeased God was the fact that they turned their backs on foreigners, neglected the needy, and demonstrated much pride and arrogance. On the other hand, Lot and his family acted completely differently. When Lot invited the travelers to enter, he not only welcomed them but also prepared a feast for them. However, peace was interrupted when the curious Sodomites surrounded Lot's house demanding that he hand over the two travelers. It is important to note that the word "no" in the Bible has various meanings, including a reference to sexual relations. Although some interpret it more literally, in the case of the Sodomites, the intention was clearly to sexually abuse the angels disguised as travelers. Faced with the tense situation, Lot tried to calm the situation by offering his virgin daughters in exchange for the freedom of the travelers. However, the Sodomites refused the offer and attacked the family's house. The angels then intervened, blinding the Sodomites with their supernatural powers, allowing Lot and his family to escape. The next morning, the angels gathered Lot, his wife, daughters, and other people and led them out of the city before God began the destruction of Sodom and the neighboring city, Gomorrah. According to reports, God rained fire and sulfur on the two cities, destroying everything and everyone there. However, during the escape, the angels warned the family not to look back. Unfortunately, Lot's wife disobeyed and looked back, possibly out of attachment to her material possessions. Left behind, there are several theories as to why she looked back, but regardless of the reason, as soon as she was turned into a pillar of salt. The story of Lot and his family is told in the Bible until they leave the city known as Zoar, and God begins the destruction. After that, we only have quotes from apostles about the sins and atrocities compared to those committed in Sodom and Gomorrah. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, as described in biblical accounts and confirmed by geographers and researchers, were situated in the region now known as the Dead Sea. However, the question that still intrigues many is how these cities were destroyed and whether they left traces that corroborate historical accounts. Some interesting studies follow. Asteroid impact. Some scholars suggest that an asteroid over 1 kilometer in size could have passed close to the Earth's surface, causing a supersonic wave and extremely high temperatures, resulting in the destruction of the cities. The biblical narrative provides insights into the events surrounding the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, contributing to the understanding of these theories. Earthquakes and liquefaction. Another theory points to a large earthquake in the region during the Bronze Age, which would have caused a landslide and liquefaction of the terrain over the cities, destroying them completely. The Bible, through its accounts, offers valuable historical perspective that may corroborate or complement these theories. Invasion by foreign peoples. Some researchers suggest that Sodom and Gomorrah could have been invaded and set on fire by foreign peoples, explaining the sudden abandonment of the cities and the partial melting of artifacts found. The biblical narrative describes the sins of the cities and the divine judgment that resulted in their destruction, providing an important context for these theories. Combination of factors. There is also the hypothesis that a combination of factors, such as earthquakes followed by fires and vents, could have contributed to the destruction of the cities, leaving traces of fire and sulfur as described in the biblical narrative. The Bible plays a crucial role in understanding these theories, providing the necessary historical and religious context to interpret the events related to Sodom and Gomorrah. Thus, the Bible is a fundamental source for understanding the end of Sodom and Gomorrah, providing detailed accounts that help contextualize and validate various theories proposed by scholars over the years. You must be wondering how this story fits into this context, right? Well, the sins committed by the Sodomites went far beyond mere promiscuity. They included pride, opulence, lack of hospitality, and arrogance. So who would be the true Sodomites today? Those who live promiscuously or those who judge and pride themselves on their own convictions? It is really difficult to determine who the true Sodomites would be today. Yes, there were the promiscuous in that time, just as there are today, but among the inhabitants of these two cities, there were also the greedy, proud, and arrogant who turned their backs on foreigners, the poor, and the needy of their own city. A very complex situation, isn't it? However, it is important to remember that in the Bible, Jesus teaches us that failing to welcome anyone is failing to welcome him, regardless of the historical existence of Sodom and Gomorrah. This narrative serves as a powerful reminder of the fundamental values of compassion and hospitality. Therefore, may we apply these principles in our own lives, always seeking to reach out to those in need and to welcome those around us. By practicing love and compassion, we contribute to a more just and humane world.